Hey guys, Artosis here, and today I'm going to be bringing you the new patch that's coming out for StormGate. Now, Next Fest is coming up in February, and I think a lot of people have realized that that is the first opportunity to play StormGate, except for, obviously a small group of people who have gotten to play beforehand. But this is going to be open to everyone coming up. And they've released the patch notes for the patch that will be utilized for that time period. Now, of course, changes could be made, but this is the information that we have right now. Just to note real quick, I haven't really dived into the details here, just took a quick glance at what I was looking at to get it ready. So this is mostly going to be my first impression of it. So first up, there is going to be a new hero for co-op named Malak. I haven't actually tried out the co-op yet in Stormgate. I do have a few images for you there, though. Here is what Malak is going to look like. And he's going to have a fire giant. He's going to have a mortar something or other, a mortadon. Yeah. So I guess we'll just see. I'll try out the co-op at some point here coming up, but that's the new co-op thing here. What I'm more concerned with is taking a look at what the actual 1v1 gameplay is going to look at like. So let's go ahead and dive into that. We have for 1v1 the ranked leagues. It looks like they're updating the way that it looks. They're adding leagues and tiers, and as it says here, you work your way from tier 3 to tier 1 to get promoted to the next league. So it's aspirant, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, master. So this is basically the same as StarCraft 2. Obviously, StarCraft 2 also has a grandmaster up at the top. Also, we have an extra league down at the bottom called aspirant, which is probably a good idea because it probably feels bad to tell people that you're bronze. So now you can tell them, oh, I'm aspirant. Okay, so it looks, pretty normal stuff. Transparent MMR. Everyone that plays competitively likes to see the actual MMR numbers. So that's all being added. Great to hear. Great to see. Unit and structure changes for Vanguard. The habitat is now going to have two things it can upgrade into. The solar habitat and the rampart. The hedgehog is going to look different now. I think a lot of people were talking about that. It kind of looked weird as a car with just missiles on top. And then for Infernal, they get a new unit called the Hellborn. We'll dive into that shortly, and I do have a picture for you as well. As far as features, custom hotkeys, you now have more customization of your hotkeys. And obviously, this is a big thing for modern RTS games. You want to be able to make it so that it's comfortable. You'll figure out how you like to play and set up your hotkeys like that. For me personally, as someone who plays more than one RTS game, I like to just try to make my hotkeys as similar across games as possible. So that might be something you want to do if you're planning on playing more than one RTS game at once. Makes it a lot. It's difficult to switch back and forth between different RTS games if they have completely different hotkey schemes when you're trying to do the same things. That's something that I've definitely found in the past. Top bar in both co-op and 1v1, you'll see our new top bar complete with the many faction or hero-specific global abilities at your disposal. The top bar is a new way to activate abilities and rituals previously found on Vanguard command posts and Infernal Shroud Stones. Okay, so that's cool. So that's like the Bob Overcharge. That's like, the Infest ability, that like global infest ability that you see utilized a lot from the Infernals. And that makes a lot of sense, right? Because right now, to use them, or previous to this elephant patch, you would have to do something like hotkey that building and then be like, okay, and now like, okay, I was hitting like 0D or whatever it was to infest my opponent's units. So good to see that they're going to make that kind of a more global command. All right, balance notes. Here's where we get into the good stuff. General, a pass was done to normalize the vision upgrades of all units and structures in the game. Fixed an issue where walling was not consistent as intended. These are good changes in general. I think some games have really weird things about the way that vision ranges work. One to note for you guys, like for instance, in StarCraft 1, all the Protoss stuff just has more vision than everything else. So like if you put in a simulator in someone's base, it can see pretty much everything. Same thing with their worker can see further and things like that. It feels like it was something that was stylistically added as like, oh, that's kind of fun. Yeah, they can see really far. They've got good eyes like when they were making the game. But honestly, for gameplay, I'd like to see this type of changed. As far as walling and making walling consistent, I think that this was a great thing that happened in StarCraft 2. Some of these older RTS games where the walls are so complicated, you need giant flowcharts about how they work. Probably not the best for new RTS games, so good to see. And then we have creeps. The creeps have generally been rebalanced. Creep camps generally gain slightly less power as they level up. Health and speed camps now start at level 2. Oh, I kind of like that. Health and speed camps don't feel super impactful early on. Siege camps now start at level 3. You're going to be able to prevent those a little bit quicker. And I think also starting at level 2, I should mention for the health and speed camps, that might have to do with a lot of people like to kill off the health camp and then just kind of sit on it with fiends. So maybe that's going to make it a little bit harder to do. Creep camps in general now more greatly vary in number of creeps. Health camp heal per second has been increased from 4 to 8. Wow, that's quite a difference. Healing up twice as quickly. It already felt like reasonable, but I guess I've definitely seen and played games where it felt like I was too far out of position to really utilize that camp. So maybe that'll let you sit there for a moment, really gain some health, and then get back into position because they're generally in like weird spots, right? Movement speed buff given by speed camp duration increased from 10 to 20. That's really good. That's something that I definitely noticed during the last play session of Stormgate. The speed camps felt not very useful. Like they'd be so far away that I feel like if I got a speed camp, by the time I got anywhere with that speed boost, the speed boost was gone. All right, Vanguard, amount of VXP needed. Okay, so basically all the things to increase level were reduced pretty significantly. If you're going to have levels in a game, I think it's important that you don't make it into a situation where it's super painful to lose those units and you can kind of get those units leveled up again. I still honestly don't know how I feel about leveling up anything in a competitive RTS. I think that's going to take me a little bit to absorb and then have an opinion that isn't just me being an old man and complaining about things. So I'll get back to you on that one. As far as orbital cooldowns, we have both Bob Overcharge and Deploy Sensor Drone. They've been moved to the top panel. Okay, that makes sense. We talked about the top panel already. Bob Overcharge now requires you to target a command post or central command. Oh, okay, so that's how they're going to do it, right? So you'll have all of your like cooldowns, I guess, or energy for like Bob Overcharge, and when you hit the button, it won't just make it go off at all the different command posts. Like you can actually just click on the one you want, right? So that makes sense. Bob Overcharge now increases Bob construction speed in addition to armor and damage. Cool. Wow, that's a big change. I was not expecting something like that. So that's like when you hit that, if you need it defensively, you could like throw down a sentry post or something like really quickly. Maybe that's something we'll see utilized to push forward build orders and make them quicker at that point. That feels like it reinforces important sim cities because you're going to have your buildings kind of closer by so that you can utilize that. I like that. That makes it really interesting for usage because right now Bob Overcharge is only for when you're being attacked, basically. So that's cool. Now you might be like, well, I might be attacked, but I really want to build this quickly. So it provides a little bit of tension in between the choices, which in a real-time strategy game, that's what you're going for. All right, Deploy Sensor Drone now fires a sensor drone from the nearest command post or central command. Huh, okay. I don't have anything super strong to say about that. New ability, Shields Up. Place a shield on a friendly target unit that absorbs 1,000 damage over 10 seconds. Costs 25 orbital energy, cooldown to 120 seconds. 1,000 damage. That sounds like a lot. I guess it's not really that much. I think a little bit more in StarCraft 2 terms of damage output. The damage output is a little bit higher as health is a little bit higher in Stormgate. So, okay, interesting. Another ability. Always good to see new abilities. All right, up next, Lancer. Build time decreased from 26 seconds to 23 seconds. Okay, we're getting into the nitty-gritty. So Lancers are a little bit faster to make. The Scout, this has been one of my favorite units to watch and to play with. Build time decreased from 15 seconds to 13 seconds. Okay, so they build quicker. Movement speed increased from 6 to 7. It's already one of the faster units. Very cool. Damage change from 6 plus 6 versus light to 8. Okay, it felt on the 6+6 versus light, it felt like they couldn't even really fight anything that wasn't light, right? Like you're going after bobs or you're going after imps or something like that. And maybe you can fight against fiends or something. But this should help the overall feeling of the attacking. Maybe a little bit better against buildings and stuff now too. Can now be slowed. I wasn't actually aware that they couldn't be slowed before. Beryllium Claws upgrade now has the following effect. Improves the bonus against light units by plus 16 damage. Okay, so it'll be 8 plus 16. Wow. Still pretty high. No longer requires another upgrade. Costs 25. Research very, very fast. Very, very cheap. I like the idea, by the way, just to throw this out there, of having such a cheap and kind of weak unit as the Scout and making upgrades for it where it's like, well, you can still use it later on. Like it's not going to scale unbelievably or anything. I don't think that we'll see many late games as the game fills out and we get higher tier units where you have a bunch of scouts around. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like they're weak enough that they'll probably just scale kind of out of existence. But I like the idea of having cheaper upgrades to keep them as useful as possible later into the game. New upgrade, Gear Grind. Grants scouts on hit. Reduces target biological movement speed by 25%. So the unit that it hits, it's going to reduce the speed of, okay? And it's going to require the Beryllium Claws upgrade as well as a central command. All right, makes sense. Exo, cost increased from 125 to 125.25. Okay, so they made it a little bit more expensive. We also have weapon range increased. Okay, that's always that. Anytime you see something like that, it changes the unit a lot, okay? Even one range in any direction greatly changes how strong a unit is. The two biggest things in RTS games are speed and range, okay? So anytime you see anything messed with, speed or range, that is basically the biggest effect. Obviously, things like numbers, like damage and health and stuff, can make a big difference as well, but I guarantee you, if you look at all the most important upgrades across all RTS games, you're going to find that it is really speed and range upgrades that change things. So that's huge. Damage change from 16 plus 3 versus heavy to 19. So it's saying, screw it, we're not doing it versus heavy. It's just going to be a flat 19. Obviously, that is a buff. You look at this overall, yeah, the cost is up 25%, but, well, a little bit less than that because we're not talking about Ethereum. But that is a huge, huge buff to the Exo. All right, MedTech. Both versions of Nanoswarm no longer stack with other instances of Nanoswarm. Yeah, they didn't mean for that to happen. That was like a silly thing that was happening before where you could put a bunch of Nanoswarms on one thing and it would just like mega heal. Obviously, you don't want that. That was a mistake. Hedgehog. This is a big list. Okay, Hedgehog has definitely been one of the most important units so far in Stormgate. Let's take a look. Cost increased. All right, by 25 Luminite. Build time decreased by 5 seconds. Okay. Movement speed decreased. Okay, this makes some sense to me. They're right now, and let's not talk about overall balance. Like you probably, if you're watching this video, there's a decent chance you've watched a fair amount of casts and matches of strong players playing each other. You probably saw that Infernals, for the most part at the top, have done very, very well against the Vanguard. But let's not talk about that specifically. Let's talk about the game design aspect. Movement speed of 8 is pretty wild, okay? Nothing could really catch the Hedgehog, right? It was like the upgraded Scout was the only thing really. Fiends could kind of like keep up with them a little bit. I don't know the exact movement speeds, but I know they couldn't really surround unless you had them close to like a wall or trees or something, right? So this is a reduced speed. 6.75 is still very, very fast. Mobilized weapon period increased from 0.2 to 0.3. Mobilized weapon period. I don't actually know what this means. I'm sorry. I'm not sure what that exact phrasing means. Mobilized weapon period increase. No, don't know. Sorry. Damage decreased from 10 plus 7 versus heavy to 10 plus 5 versus heavy. So it's a little damage nerf against the larger units. It did feel like these were slaying larger units, like brutes, for instance. Moving turn period increased. Ah, okay. So I think what moving turn period is, like, you go up and you attack and then you turn around to go back. They're going to slow that turnaround a little bit, right? Right now, it feels like almost instantaneous, and they're going to add just a little bit to it. So you can't just like infinitely micro, right? When they had 8 speed before and move turn period of 0.18, like a really good player, their hedgehogs barely ever get touched. All right. Ammo now recharges 1 missile at a time instead of 4 at a time. Okay. I mean, I thought that was already the case. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, seeing them, it doesn't feel like all 4 come back at exactly the same second. They come back pretty quickly. But maybe what this means is like counter recharge. The counter turns on recharge. The counter turns on recharge rather than the counter. And then it's like recharge, 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 recharge. Something like that. That's my best guess there. There's no clarification in here, just so you know. So yeah, I would have read if there was. Okay, and now we have mobilized ammo recharge duration increased from 4 to 1.2. Decreased from 4 to 1.2. Mobilized ammo recharge duration. So is that when it's... Yeah, I'm not sure what these things actually 100% mean. That sounds like it means the recharge while it's running around. That could be, but that doesn't feel like that's been the case when I've been watching, casting, playing games. Deployed ammo recharge duration decreased. Okay, so I definitely know what that means, right? Oh, okay. So mobilized, they're calling mobilized. This is when it's not in turret form, and deployed is when it is in turret form. Okay, that makes much more sense now that they had both of these. Okay, Detective Artosis on the case. So yeah, this is when it's in like missile turret mode. When it's just hitting air units, they're making it recharge a little bit quicker. So, okay, this all makes much more sense now. If you view these 3 together, okay? So the ammo recharge, 1 missile at a time. So before it was like 4 at a time at 4 seconds. They're putting it at 1.2 per 1. So that makes much, much more sense. Okay, we get it. No longer attacks air in mobilized mode. Okay, that's kind of an interesting thing as well. So no longer can you utilize your hedgehogs to hit those air units unless you deploy them. And I'm recalling correctly here, right, that you have to upgrade that. So they aren't just going to be free anti-air at the beginning of the game. Okay. Can now deploy without an upgrade. Ha! All right. Well, now you know I really didn't read these ahead of time. So deploying without an upgrade. Okay. No longer talking about that. That's fine. You can just deploy them if need be. Mobilized weapon range decreased. Wow. Overall, this is a gigantic nerf is what it looks like. Deployed weapon range decreased. New upgrade, transonic rockets. Increases the range of the deployed hedgehog's anti-air weapon by +5. And the mobilized hedgehog anti-ground weapon by +2. Okay. So this upgrade, they're saying you want these ranges, you want to play with these ranges, which we think are okay overall, but not at the beginning when you get it. Get this upgrade, and then you get to play with those ranges, but you actually get even more for the ground range. So this upgrade, in a way, makes them better than they were before. Like 7 range compared to 6 range, like I mentioned before, range upgrades are gigantic. Overall, I would say this is definitely a nerf, but with this, obviously, it does change it a bit towards the buff direction, right? As the overall ground range being buffed a bit with that upgrade. Okay, the Vulcan. Build time decreased from 50 seconds to 45. Yeah, that seems fine. It did feel like Vulcans were taking a long time to come out. 50 seconds is pretty substantial. All right, Atlas. A lot of changes for Atlas. The cost has been increased. Oh, okay, by 25 Therium. Build time decreased pretty substantially, 7 seconds off. That's a pretty big discount on build time. Deployed damage increased from 70 versus heavy, plus 35 versus structure, okay, to 80, plus 35 versus heavy, plus 35 versus structure. Okay. So overall, plus 10 damage and an extra bonus versus heavy. Okay. So they're going to really heavily counter those heavy units. Now you're really going to have to dodge. Weapon period increase, so it's going to shoot a little bit slower. Deployed missile speed increased from 10 to 12. Oh, okay. So the actual thing that comes out that you're supposed to dodge, I actually made a video about this like months and months and months ago, where the overall Atlas design is similar in a way to the Disruptor because there is dodging capabilities. You can't control the shot once it's left, but you can dodge it. But they're speeding it up a little bit. And this is going to be something that I bet you that we see this changed many, 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 many times over the coming years, because it's going to be really hard to hit the right number here where it's dodgeable. Because if it's not dodgeable, then you have to nerf the numbers on it. But if it is dodgeable, then the best pros are going to dodge it all the time. But if they're dodging all the time and you up the numbers so that it's still good, then it crushes lower leagues, right? That's the hard line to tread. That was basically the entire video that I made about this unit before. And so this is, I think, going to be the first of many changes that we see to this. Deployed full damage radius increased. So it's a bigger area with a quicker movement. Deployed half damage radius increased. Yep. So basically, guys, I'm sorry. So what this means exactly is how much splash it's doing, right? So the circles of like this area gets full damage, this area gets half, and this area gets 25%, right? Those are growing, but not the overall circle size. That's what this means. So it's going to be more punishing when you're hit by it because you'll take a higher percentage of the actual damage. Okay, this one is daunting. The Hornet is the flying unit for Vanguard that I have barely seen. I have barely seen this. I've seen it as a counter to drops coming in, and that's about it. Okay, so the cost has been increased. Build time decreased by 4 seconds. Health increased by 20. Anti-air cooldown is faster. Quite a bit. Almost twice as fast. Holy crap. Anti-air backswing decreased. Backswing? Is that like how it pushes it back or something? I'm not sure. Anti-air weapon damage changed from 15 to 18 plus 9 versus light. So this is a light killer. That's wild. Damn. 27 damage versus light, and it shoots at 0.4 weapon air period. That's wild. All right, the range is also increased. Anti-ground shoots just as fast as anti-air now. Same with that weird backswing, whatever that is. And then it goes from 15 to 14 plus 7 versus light. So you can see they are trying to tread that line of the air units. No one wants mass air armies to be the end game of an RTS. It happens in a lot of RTS games. StarCraft 2 has some. StarCraft 1 has some. And it's just not as interesting. It's not as strategic. It really comes into like a very boring chess game in a lot of ways. So I think that that's a nod towards that with lesser stats against those ground. And the weapon range against ground is lower as well. So this does not look like it's a great ground fighter, but an amazing air fighter. Stationary and moving turn period decreased. Okay, so it turns quicker. Turn radius decreased. Okay, so it doesn't have to move as much to turn. The charged predator state now no longer increases the damage of the unit's first attack. Okay. No longer has the launch Skymine ability. Okay, I think that's probably pretty smart. That ability, it's like, okay, you're throwing out mines to hit other air units, but in fact, they just made it much better against air units. That seems to make sense to me. And maybe we'll actually see some of these Hornets used because I've seen almost none of them and certainly haven't seen them massed yet. All right, evacs. New ability, release Skymine. Uh-oh. Skymine. Are we just moving that over? Places a Skymine behind this unit that lasts for 120 seconds. Upon activation by an enemy air unit, the Skymine will chase down its target and detonate, dealing 50 damage to enemy air units in the area, slowing them for 10 seconds. That's the bigger part, is slowing them for 10 seconds. Okay, basically something like this exists so that you can still use evacs when something like this exists, okay? Without something like that, like a Hornet will just chase it down in a matter of seconds and kill it. Here, you can at least slow it and get away sometimes. Like, you don't want to always get away, but you need to have some playability there. That has been something we've seen happen in StarCraft games where there will be a counter that's like a bit too hard. And so it's like, oh, you went this and I went this, I win in the mirror matchup, right? It's like, we used to have that with Phoenixes in StarCraft too. It's like, oh, you went Oracle, I went Phoenix, I win the game. And it was almost 100% true. Not 100%, but this is trying to like hedge against that, I think. Skymine vision range decrease, Skymine activation time decrease. Yeah, you would want that as well because you need to be able to get it out and then get away. Okay, Sentinel. A science vessel-y thing. Build time decreased by 10 seconds. That's pretty substantial, 20% decrease. New pulse inhibitor ability, which replaces the old version. Effect launches a missile at a target area. On impact, enemy units have their movement speed reduced by 25%, damage reduced by 40%, and vision reduced by 90% for 10 seconds. All right, so their movement speed is reduced, damage is reduced, and vision. The vision being reduced by 90% is pretty up there. That's almost optical flare level. That's wild. Interesting. I'll have to see it play out. It's really hard to say anything big about that. Haste spot dispersal aura, movement speed increase. Honestly, I feel like we haven't seen the Sentinel used a whole lot. So like, I like the idea of buffing it a little bit. Cool. All right. Habitat. Build time increased from 15 to 20 seconds. Okay. Health decreased from 600 to 400. No longer has heavy tag. Has the light tag. Interesting. New ability. Upgrade to solar habitat. New ability. Upgrade to rampart. I don't know if they explain what these do in here. We'll see, I guess. But I mean, you can take some guesses here. Solar habitat, rampart. Neither of those sound like a supply drop. Solar habitat, it sounds like energy focused. I don't know. I guess we'll see. Hangar Bay. Cost decreased from 150-100 to 150-75. Return to hangar speed bonus increased from 25% to 100%. Oh, that's wild. A return to hangar speed bonus. So return to hangar is a Hornet ability where you can make them go back to the hangar super, super fast. So basically, I think the air units are basically being a little bit underused by Vanguard. You know, they are trying to make it so air units aren't too powerful. So they're making this cheaper, and they're making it so that, like, yeah, I mean, if you have one of these, first off, you could put it elsewhere on the map to retreat with your Hornets. But the Hornets are going to get their lickety-split, and you're going to be able to heal them up very quickly. Okay, Buzzsaw Cannon. Range increase from 6 to 7. That's good to see. Bounce range increase from 4 to 5. These are both good to see. Really, before this, it felt like as far as things you could make, it was like, okay, Buzzsaw Cannon is not that good. Flat Cannon is way, 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 way better. So this, I think this will give it a little bit more opportunity to be utilized maybe against some of these mass fiend build type of things. All right, Sentry A, new ability. Vision Surge increases units' vision range by +15, allows it to see up cliffs. Cool. Flat Cannon, damage decreased from 24 to 19. Range decreased. That's probably good. The Flat Cannon seemed like insane as far as static D went. And yeah, that brings these two into line a little bit more. Meds, you don't want one that's so much better that you never make the other. That's basically what I'm trying to say here. I'm not talking about the exact numbers on things. Obviously, something like 12 range is very, 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 very much. But yeah, we're talking about the overall idea of it rather than trying to achieve perfect balance during beta phases. Like, that's never going to happen. Med Station, in combat heal rate increased from 2 per second to 4 per second. I haven't seen med stations used very much, so sounds good. Out of combat heal rate doubles. Okay, very good. So overall for Vanguard, it seems like a lot of buffing going on, some balancing as far as these go, trying to make flying units more interesting and better, trying to make the habitat more interesting because the habitat wasn't doing anything at all, and I think that people shy away from that. It's like a StarCraft 1 supply depot where you're like, well, I mean, build it as part of a wall maybe. Yeah, it looks like buffing, Hedgehog with some nerfs for sure, but reasonable it seems. and possibly more range, but definitely nerfs on the Hedgehog. And considering it felt like that was most of the games, kind of makes sense to me. The Exo, that feels like a pretty big buff for the Exo, by the way. And Scouts seem to come out pretty well. So overall, it looks like a lot of buffs and good ideas, which is really what matters. Infernals. Tech tree reworked. Okay, white health no longer degenerates off of Shroud. I do wonder what the tech tree reworked would be. It might be something as simple as, like right now, Iron Vault and Conclave can be made at the same time, but Conclave requires Therium to make Gaunts, and no one would ever make Gaunts before Brutes. So like, why? So maybe they're going to gate that behind it or something. I don't know. We'll see. Infernal units now generally have 25% of health as white health, down from 50%. Okay, so you're just not going to get as big a buff from that white health on the Shroud. Oh, and it doesn't degenerate off Shroud. Oh, somehow I like read that and then it didn't compute, and I read the next part. Okay, so that's a huge change, right? So now you're going to want to top off on white health, but you don't feel like you have to sit there forever, right? You can actually go out onto the map. Now, obviously, it'll still degenerate on Fiends because they lose health when they're off Shroud. But yeah, that's really interesting. And yeah, no, I think that sounds like a very good change to me, honestly. 50% seems like a lot of extra health and white health. I've definitely seen some battles where Magmadons are just tanking for days. Okay, rituals. Rituals can now be found on the top bar panel. Blood Moon Ritual removed from the game. Bring Darkness. Now Nightfall Infestation. Renamed. That makes sense. Cooldown increased from 10 seconds to 120 seconds. It's crazy. Oh my God. Effect radius decreased from 10 to 6. Now has 3-second delay, casting delay. Now requires Greater Shrine. Okay, guys. So this was the Infestation Pit. And the thing is, it costs so little and it was so easy to use that you would spam it all the time. As soon as you start any fight, you just put it onto your opponent's units and you infest them. This is a good change. It's, yeah, you don't want to overdo the infesting. You don't want stuff always infested all the time. That's just silly. Just make it a class ability. You play against Infernal, you're infested, you know? So I like that. I like that idea. Nightfall Infestation. Now renamed to Shroudstone Manifestation. Reworked to be cast from the top bar. Must be placed within 10 radius of a shrine or Shroudstone. Okay, that's better. Before it was only a Shroudstone, I believe. Now grants a temporary buff to the summoned Shroudstone that increases attack speed and damage by 100% each for 30 seconds. Okay, so now you can use it during a defense or a battle or something. That makes sense. Cooldown increased from 30 to 120 seconds. Damn, only every 2 minutes. Okay. Now requires Greater Shrine. Okay. Summon Flayed Dragon. Animus cost decrease to 300. Resource cost slightly up on the Therium. Vision range increased. Movement speed decreased slightly. The cooldown and Faded Breath. This is Faded Breath. I believe that's the one that infested everything. And that's increased a little bit and now requires Greater Shrine. Okay, that all seems pretty reasonable. And I mean, the Animus cost decrease makes this, you're going to see it a lot more. Getting to 500 before, really, it felt like it took a very long time in games. New ritual, summon effigy. Summons an effigy at the target location that provides Shroud for 60 seconds. Cost 10 Animus, cooldown 60 seconds. Okay, cool. New ritual, Hellspawn Resurgence refreshes all charges on a target Infernal Shrine, Iron Vault, Conclave, or Twilight Spire. Whoa! Cost 15 Animus, cooldown 0 seconds. Refreshes all charges. Is that all 3 charges? Do you get 3 units for 15 Animus? That seems insane. If I'm understanding this correctly, cooldown 0 seconds. So as long as, like, if you have a lot of money and your units are dying in a battle, you can just be like, and just pump out brutes nonstop or whatever. Like that sounds, if it's the 3 charges, because that's what it reads like. That sounds insane. That sounds absolutely broken, crazy, wildly too strong. That's, I mean, already the way that Infernal produces its units is kind of wild, but imagine that for just 15 Animus, you're bam, 3 more units. And those die and you don't quite get 15 back, but it's close enough. Crazy, crazy. Okay. New ritual, Shadowfall, uncovers entire map in Shroud for 30 seconds. That's cool. That's cool. I like the idea of that. I like the idea of that. That sounds neat to me. Okay, let's keep going. Fellhog, health decreased. Okay, that's good. Fellhogs are beefy as hell. Some of these rushes felt pretty strong. Damage decreased. Okay, Fellhogs now provide 0.5 Animus when they perish. Oh, now my brain just told me I need to sit down and see how many meat farms I need to have to constantly summon like the dragon on the dragon's cooldown to always have it from Fellhogs. How crazy would that be? Oh, imagine if the cooldown was a bit quicker. Anyways, yeah, good. I think the Fellhogs were pretty wild. You saw them utilize a lot in aggressive and defensive play. Okay, Imp. Inflame now only activates on 1 unit if you have multiple imps selected. Holding on the hotkey will activate it multiple times. Okay, you don't want to just activate it instantly on everything since it is on a timer. Brute. Costs increase from 100 to 150. Supply cost increase from 2 to 3. Now drops 2 fiends on death, even if you didn't cast Sunder Soul. Okay, so firstly, obviously these are pretty big nerfs. It makes sense. The brutes have been dominating everything, and you want people to play the game and have fun right now. So it's good to just give them some blanket nerfs. Who knows what numbers these will end up at, and you can't look at it and be like, I'm so angry as an Infernal player. I'm so angry. Dude, the game just came out. It's fine. This is going to make the game more fun for everyone to play. The Brute always dropping 2 fiends on death, even if you didn't cast Sunder Soul. I don't like that. I'm calling it. That you are making it so much easier, right? Like, that's a skill check. Is like, okay, these units are about to die, and looking in a battle and like trying to micro and keep track, or saying, I don't have time to do this, and just popping all the ones that are damaged or something, or maybe popping everything. I felt like those caused interesting opportunities for player skill expression. I would prefer if things like this don't occur. Soulforge Ascendance now provides only 1 bonus fiend down from 2. That makes sense. So this doubled it before, so that when they died, you got 2, or if you popped them, you got 4. Here now, you'll just always get 3. So this makes sense, and it's in line with this. 4 was a lot anyways. And I mean, even adding any at all is good. They're good before Soulforge Ascendance. And now additionally increases the armor of brutes by 10. That sounds like a lot, man. We're making some Ultralisks here. Okay. The cost is decreased of this upgrade. Research time decreased by 50%. Sunder Soul now only activates on 1 unit if you have multiple brutes selected. Holding on the hotkey will activate it multiple times. Okay, I have had games where I've accidentally popped like 10 brutes when I meant to pop 1, so I get it. I don't know. Like, I mean, it makes more actions, I guess, to get mass fiends. I don't know about that. I don't know. When you're selecting multiple brutes, Sunder Soul will now always activate on the one with the lowest health. Okay. If they're going to get you the fiends no matter what, because let's say that this existed, but this didn't. It's just like the easiest thing ever. You're like, yeah, I'm really good at this game. Wow. But since this exists, I guess if you're like, hey, I need 4 fiends to quickly run over here and scout this area, or to run back to my base to cover up some scouts attack me, whatever it is, you don't have to really pay attention to grabbing the lowest ones. It'll just do that for you. I don't like the changes in general, but this makes more sense when in conjunction with this, if you understand that, what I mean by that. All right, the Fiend, damaging decrease from 9 to 8. Unstable mass trait reworked. New effect, the unit degenerates 2% of its white health per second off Shroud. Now immune to Infest. Okay, now immune to Infest is good. That's going to make that matchup a lot better. Imagine that, actually. it's if your opponent goes Gaunts now, you can just only fight with Fiends. And you can use your Infestability on the Gaunts. The Infernal versus Infernal is going to be a weird matchup, guys. I really think so. That's going to be a weird, weird matchup. But them not losing health, I actually kind of like them losing health over time. You're going to see way more harassment with them because, like, right now, eventually the harassment dies out, but now you can run around forever. So those are weird changes. I do like the damage down. It seems like they killed everything too fast. All right. Gaunt range increase from 4.5 to 5.5. Okay, like Gaunts did feel very low range. And when you look at it at this change compared to the Exo's gone to 7 range now, right? Exo still way outranges it. I think it's good to bring this up from 4.5. It almost felt like a Roach or an Adept from StarCraft 2 as opposed to an actual ranged unit for this army. Now infest all units on hit without an upgrade. Oh, wow. So infest just starts at the beginning now. Interesting. Hemoglaive infusion ability renamed to Reaper's Rush. Okay. Hemoglaive infusion no longer adds infest. Yeah. Replace. Yes. Okay. That's the same thing 3 times. Reaper's Rush allows the Gaunt to use the Reaper's Rush. Yes. Thank you. Ah! Cost 100, 1 minute. Okay. We don't know what it does. Let's assume that it keeps the speed and damage upgrade that the Gaunt was getting before, but the Gaunt always has infest. Let's assume that's what it is. Okay. Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. Because you kind of need to turn it on anyways if you're going to infest stuff. I mean, without it, like, it will always make sense to have a Gaunt in your army. Like, you don't even have to micro it. It's just infesting shit. So it's like you just have maybe a few Gaunts to make sure things stay infested and that's it. Maybe. Okay. Seems like definitely a buff, a big buff overall to the Gaunt. Magmadon, weapon period increased. Okay, so doesn't attack as quickly. Damage decreased. Okay, less damage. No longer has Burrow Charge. Okay. No longer has Flame Coil Lasso. No one was using that yet. Anyways, Consume reworked. Sacrifice nearby Fellhog or Fiend, recovering 100% of max white health instantly. Holy crap! Wow. I like it. I like that very much. The fact that it can eat fiends during a battle to get 25% of its health as white health back, that's awesome. Those things are going to be tanky as hell. New ability, Trample. Goes into a rampage, pushing nearby units out of the Magmadon's path and dealing 150 damage over 6 seconds to nearby enemy ground units. Destroys trees. Okay, so it still kills the trees. Pushing units out of the path. Okay, so instead of like... So if it's pushing units to the side, because I've seen games where people jump beyond units and trap them, but if it's pushing them to the sides, I guess maybe you can't just surround by having like 3 Magmadons go forward. You can't be like, okay, I have your army surrounded or whatever, right? It's like it'll play a little bit different. That sounds like that might be it, but I might be a little bit wrong on exactly how that's going to work. Demon Hoof Tremors allows the Magmadon's trample ability to periodically stun nearby enemy ground units. Oh. Okay. So just more stun added to it sometimes. Okay. Shadowflyer, the Scourge unit. Health from 50 to 60. Now built at the Twilight Spire instead of the Shrine. Okay, it did feel weird it was at the Shrine. Movement speed increased to 6. Bloodburst missile acceleration period increased from 100 to 200. Oh, okay, so for a long time it gets that upgrade. Max speed is decreased. Okay. Sanguine Surge upgrade no longer increases the movement speed by 50%. Okay, this is a very not used unit right now. I think I used them 1 time. So I don't have a lot to say about that yet. I feel like that's something that'll be actually well balanced later on. Doombringer. Health is increased by 10. Cost increased by 50 Therium. Supply increased by 1. Built from the Conclave instead of the Twilight Spire. Okay, so Conclave is turning into like a robotics or something? Something like that, kind of. Okay. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. It feels weird to go into flying tech to be able to get that. Well, no, I guess that's something that some RTSs do that, where the transport unit is like Terran and stuff is in the with the flying units. Yeah, I could take it or leave it either way. I guess I don't really. I can't think of how this affects anything too badly right now. Requirement change from Ritual Chamber to Greater Shrine. Okay. Weaver. Health decreased a little bit. Lash can now target deployed units. So units like that are in like siege mode, like an Atlas or a Hedgehog for air. Weapon damage changed from 20 to question marks. Ooh. we have RNG damage. That's crazy. Sometimes it deals 1,000 damage. No, looks like this is not completely finished patch notes. Or someone just didn't type it in. New passive trait, Soul Ripper. This unit's weapon deals 10% of the target unit's max health, 5% to structures. Is that in addition to 20? So it would max 10 hit something, or no, it would always be less than that because it's dealing 20 also. But like, interesting. Maybe more of a CG type unit. 5% of structure damage sounds pretty high, right? That sounds like it's a good ability. I feel like I'm having a hard time getting my head around that, like what 10% means in this game for that. Interesting though. I like the idea. Meat Farm, build time increase from 15 to 20. That makes sense. These things built in like 2 seconds. No, Artosis is 15. It says right there. Felt like 2 seconds. No longer has a heavy tag, has a light tag. So all supply structures are going down to light tag. So maybe easier to harass in the early game. Shroud Stone, Shroud Radius increased, weapon period increased. So it shoots a little bit slower. Okay. It didn't feel like Shroud Stones were overpowered, to be perfectly honest. And the Shroud increasing, Okay, Twilight Spire, cost decreased a little bit. Requirement changed from Greater Spire to Iron Vault or Conclave. Oh, okay. So you can... Oh, okay. That's kind of interesting, but like I don't think it's something that pops out in my mind. It's like, wow, this is game bending. Shadow Cleft, build time increase. No longer researches Hemoglaive. It will upgrade the Demon Hoof Tremors, which is that ability for the Magmadon. Ritual Chamber, build time increase from 50 to 60, and that gets the Reaper's Rush, which is, that's the replacement for Hemoglaive from the Shadow Cleft. So that's moving to Ritual Chamber. It looks like they're pushing that around a little bit where the upgrades are. Makes sense. You want to kind of keep some continuity there so you understand where you're going for what upgrades. I did find that actually hard with Infernals to kind of remember while playing. New unit, Hellborn. Long-range artillery unit that deals cone damage on weapon impact. Built at the Iron Vault, requires the Shadow Cleft. Okay, so that's the Hellborn, and I do have some artwork of that. There he is. The Hellborn. Good to see another unit mixed in there as well. Overall, looking at the patch notes, I mean, everything looks cool. It looks like they've made the game a little bit more fun, I want to say. I think changing the Hedgehog, like bringing the Hedgehog's power down, making the Brute harder to use. Both these should make this upcoming playable session that we're going to have during Next Fest more fun for everyone. When the game was just kind of like, the early game was just those two units going at it, I think it looks more interesting as is. Anyways, this was the patch, and I hope you guys enjoyed and learned a lot. Thanks for watching.